First time doing this.
We're going
We are live.
Technical limitations today. Technical difficulties in a way.
Everything's breaking on us. So this is what we have to do. Where are you going?
I'm going to make sure that it's all good.
Okay. I don't know if I should just start going. I've never done this before. Okay, so Nelson Rodriguez's press conference was today. It was the end of the season. It was the last one before the offseason really starts. And he began talking about how congratulating a lot of the retirees, and then he really went into, stating how he could have built off. I'm already started. Is that fine?
Yeah, it's fine.
So yeah, he was. I was just getting started. Nelson started talking about how he could have built off the progress from last year, but didn't. And it was a bad season. He took some blame for it. And I gotta start saying, But he vows to improve. He says that he has to be bold and brave, whatever that means. And do you know what that means, James? He has to be bold and brave. I mean,
I have no idea what it means with this guy.
But I mean, we went in half-cocked. We didn't have a full roster. He stated that. Relied on a lot of young, unproven talent that he never scouted, because he admitted that he was unprepared for the draft.
I gotta say, I think we can see comments, by the way.
It's no question that why we struggled this year. I mean,
he admitted it.
We just didn't have the roster, and we rag on Pano a little bit, but we saw what he could do with a playoff caliber roster.
Well,
but he got bounced first round, and this year, I mean, it's just the roster wasn't there.
I think there's a legit gripes with Pano. When you find out that Bastian Schweinsteiger is making behind-the-scenes decisions for the lineup week to week, what's Pano even doing then? If his job's already been made redundant by Bastian Schweinsteiger saying, I don't trust your tactics and your ways and your player choices, I will go play center back instead.
Well, and it's also, just who they have at center back. Pano didn't trust them.
A lot of my fire's been drained. We filmed the episode right before this, and it was all lost into the ether, basically, when we went to go check.
But he had Lillard, who he didn't trust, Campbell, who he didn't play a lot, Kappelhoff, who else was back there? Dean, who just wasn't really good enough. So the options weren't really there. Brandon Vincent played, Kevin Ellis played a little bit. So he tried a lot of options back there at center back, and he just didn't have enough. So I really think it's an indictment on Nelson, just for not having Miera's replacement.
And two of the players that Nelson brought in or have had to depend on, Christian Dean and Brandon Vincent, have retired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's part of the plan shot to pieces. So basically, that whole back line is gone, especially with the news that we just learned earlier that Matt Polster is probably not going to return to the Fire if he's able to catch on over in Europe, he's not coming back.
Well, yeah, Nelson wants to bring him back.
If he isn't able to catch on over Europe, Fire own his rights. And Nelson was giggling with glee. He's like, we got him.
Yeah, well, you can't blame the guy for wanting to go and try Europe. I mean, but yeah, obviously Matt Polster is one of our favorites. We want him back. Bold and brave, we talked about that. He wanted Pano to return, and who knows if Pano wants to return. He said he's he's going to be gone. He's scouting in Europe right now, so he's going to be meeting with him in a week. I don't want Pano back. I think he's an inexperienced, even though it's his third year, manager. He's an inexperienced manager, and we still don't really know his tactics.
How can you say that a third-year manager who also has won a Youth World Cup is an inexperienced manager? I think that's an incorrect assessment. I think he's just not a good manager.
Yeah, and we saw what he could do.
You have 4 years at least of experience of coaching teams.
But we saw what he could do last year, and who knows if that was tactics.
What did he do last year that was special?
We really didn't see much.
He got bounced in the first round of playoffs at home.
Yeah, they whipped long ball. I mean, they whipped crosses in. They got forward a little bit more, but
they had no way to score. Nico had no set way to score. He got a lot of his goals just through sheer force of will. There was no set tactics for this team.
And think about, how adding Alexander Katai changed this whole dynamic. I mean, Nico did not get the volume, did not get the service, didn't have the opportunities like he did last year, and he has a great conversion rate.
Okay.
Katai, he's kind of a volume player. He needs his touches, he needs his run at players, he needs opportunities, he needs shots.
When a coach gets a new...
It affected the product on the pitch, and they did not play it out like last year.
That's not a problem, though, for... The way you say it it's like he got a good player and he tried to play to his strengths.
Well, if you have
that's not a problem in my opinion. My problem was that even when he got that good player, it meant nothing to the offense. They had no offense even when they got that offensive key cog to add to it. When they got that cog, they still were clueless on how to create offense.
It turned into
they were clueless on how to defend too.
It was like knee ball. It was just like get the ball to Katai, and that was really kind of it. And
or hoof it in from the outside back.
But yeah, we still don't really know what Pano is. So
what is Pano's tactics?
He had some
what
antics
is
on the sideline, very
formation?
Animated. Who knows?
I could care less about his animation. I like that he's animated, that he's fired up.
Sure.
What I don't like is his week-to-week changes in his tactics. Yeah. I don't like the fact that we've seen 15 different formations under him. A 4-4-2, a 4-4-2 diamond, a 3-4-3, a 3-5-2, a 4-2-3-1. And
part of that goes back to the roster, just composition.
A 4-1-2-1-2-1. What? How many? And he doesn't have a set way to play because he doesn't have a set way to score.
They're trying to. What are we? He's
dog paddling. He's dog paddling, and Pano's dog paddling, and he's gonna get. It's only a matter of time before he gets sucked under, and yet we're gonna be stuck with him for another year because here's the thing, Pano got left out. We know this. Pano got left out too dry by Nelson Rodriguez this entire season, and Nelson accepted that in his conference. He said, "Yeah, it is my fault. It's not Nelson. It's not Pano's fault. It's not the team's fault. I failed these people by not getting them the pieces they need." I agree with that assessment. Mm-hmm. However, even still, Pano has more than enough in the freaking cupboard. When you have the Golden Boot winner from 2017, when you have Bastian Schweinsteiger, a World Cup winner from 2014, the captain, and you got Dax McCarty and Kappelhoff, those are 4 stud players, in which a lot of teams in MLS don't have that much quality right there in those 4 players.
Well, the vibes, it's like the vibes weren't really there.
And he wasn't able to make anything work with those guys for 2 seasons. Well, he was not able to figure out how to get Schweinsteiger into a good position.
Nelson was asked about problems, and he just said, that he wasn't urgent enough. He wasn't getting some deals done. There's quite a few deals that fell through, and it sounds like he wouldn't go up in his evaluation. Mm-hmm. He made a run at a maybe even a starting goalkeeper, a veteran goalkeeper, for Richard Sanchez to learn. Fell through. Hold on. He reached an agreement in personal terms with the number 10, but his dad talked him out, saying he didn't want him to go to the MLS. So we all heard about that during the transfer season. He also said he made a $17 million offer, which I don't know if I believe. Mm-hmm. Hold on. And then he said that they made an offer, but MLS kind of rejected the salary construction. So that is what? 4 acquisitions that fell through and ultimately weren't able to help the team. So who knows if that $17 million offer is true? That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And think about this. This team was not a $17 million play away from making the playoffs.
They needed back line,
center backs,
a goalie.
They needed a cam and a goalie. And the fact that they were relying on a career MLS backup in McLean, which we didn't find out he was basically the best goalie on the team until the end of the season. I don't blame Pano because you want to play the kids. You want to try Steven, Cleveland. You want to try Sanchez.
They gave Richard an opportunity.
But they gave him both opportunities. And guess what? McLean is still easily light years ahead of those guys and proven it.
I mean, come on.
I'm going to enter the twilight zone here just for maybe 1 or 2 minutes here. Enter the twilight zone with me. What if everything that Nelson Rodriguez did was on purpose to show the shortcomings of having a cheap owner like Hauptmann and how to compete in MLS? He's like, "Hey, Hauptmann, all right, I'll go by your rules, Hauptmann." And then he fails because Hauptmann's got horribly strict rules, and he points to these results. He says, "Hauptmann, these are your rules, and I lived by them, and I died by them."
Well, I disagree.
And we failed tremendously. So you gotta undo those purse strings and let me go spend the things I need to, and that's why we need to go bold. And maybe Twilight Zone, maybe Nelson Rodriguez is not as big as an idiot as we think he is, and that he actually tried to dupe or facilitate this spurring on to greatness by saying, "Hey, trash owner, you're trash because you're trash.
No,
this is the trash policies that's created this trash."
He didn't tank the season after going.
And I'm going to facilitate getting a new owner in Mansueto to help me get out of rid of your trash ways. So it's Twilight Zone. All right, we're out of the Twilight Zone.
It goes back to these 4 moves.
We'll go back to moving that Nelson is an idiot.
It goes back to, I don't know if he's an idiot. It goes back to his evaluations, maybe what resources he has.
Yes.
And these 4 players falling through and not getting these guys. That's what it is.
Well, if you're spending $17 million on a player,
they lack spine.
You're only getting one player.
He kept telling about how he needs a new spine. He needs 2 new center backs. He needs a goalie. He needs a cam. And, I think they'll have enough in the center mid if they re-sign some guys with Georgie. Hopefully Dax comes back. Hopefully Basti comes back. Even though they're kind of the same player and we've seen what it looks like. Georgie has some promise, but, if they bring Drew back, they have Adams, if they bring, who else am I missing? Brant Bronico. There's enough in the center mid where he really needs to fix the center backs. He needs to fix the cam and the goalie, and that's the spine that he needs to fix.
I'm gonna say this: do we really need Bastian Schweinsteiger to return to the Fire? Does he actually really help the Fire going forward?
Yeah,
because
I think he does.
I'm gonna say this: the man is too slow for this day and age of MLS. If Stevie G couldn't hack it when he came over, there's nothing to be offended by. Lampard couldn't really hang it when he came over.
No.
These guys just didn't have they're just like Schweinsteiger, in which these guys are some of the world-class soccer minds and skill, but their legs are given out and they don't have the wheels anymore that they had. For instance, Schweinsteiger's 36 pace in FIFA 19. Not that that's any indication of his actual pace, but that's just a suggestion of how slow he is. 36 pace, in FIFA is abysmal.
Yes,
There's grandmas
he's
that
certainly
walk
not
faster.
fast, but he's really smart, and I think.
So is he
I think
skill
he's
set
still
for center
really,
mid?
No,
still suited
Yes.
for this MLS.
I think he is, just because he's.
And would that money be better
not
spent
a
elsewhere?
quick player? Just because he's not a quick player.
What do you guys think? We can read your comments, I think.
But not just because he's not a quick player. Doesn't take away the fact that he's super smart. He organizes, and I think it's playing in the MLS. You're not playing with as good as people around you. Maybe you're not playing with as good as tactics, and so he has to do a lot of the dirty work. And you're right, he is an older guy, and you would like him not to be doing the dirty work, facilitating, doing the pretty work. So, but I still think he's viable. He's got legs. I would love Bastian Schweinsteiger back.
Well, if he's coming back, okay, go on.
And again, I don't think he's adjusted to maybe the MLS, league. I'm telling you, if he was on a better team, and that's a cop-out saying this, of course, anyone would be better, but if he was on a better team where he didn't have so many defensive responsibilities and he didn't have to worry about playing center back, and he could facilitate a little bit back there from the deep CDM position, he'd probably be really good. But what we had to do, that kind of everyone, all hands on deck approach on defense, and it's just we were defending for our lives, and so that's what we were doing most of the game, was defending. So that is what I think happened there. Mm-hmm. But I want Basti back.
I think if Basti comes back,
you
can't bring back Paunovic, because you've made Paunovic redundant by bringing in Schweinsteiger, because Schweinsteiger already thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and when he has to dealing with Paunovic's tactics, who he knows is not as good of a soccer player than he ever was, and does not have the pedigree as much as Bastian Schweinsteiger, has not as won as much Champions Leagues or World Cups. You need to have a coach that Schweinsteiger actually respects, because right now you have a coach in the locker room that your best player literally does not respect enough and says, I'm not going to do what Pauno plans. I will go play center back because I don't trust anything of what Pauno wants to do or Nelson's players that he's brought in. This is a full indictment on Nelson and Paunovic.
It is.
And so what do you even need Paunovic anymore if you have Schweinsteiger already there, capable of saying, hey, I know what this team needs better than the coach does, and they need me to play center back because they don't have that.
I guarantee you he would respect Patrice Evra, maybe Tata. A big-time
Patrice
manager.
Evra is a player.
He was a manager. Who am I thinking about that just got hired?
Thierry Henry?
No, that just got hired from New York City. What's his name?
French guy.
He's a French defender. That's why I said Patrice Evra.
No, the French guy who just went over to, not Lyon, but the other...
Summer Olympic... I don't know.
Comment below.
Either way,
the New York coach.
Who is he? What's his name? Vieira!
Thank you.
Yes. Oh my God.
Patrick
Thank you
Vieira.
for that. Thank you. God, that's embarrassing. But yeah, either way, Nelson, he blamed injuries he knew about going in.
What injuries were there really?
He said young guys didn't really step up.
There were
potential.
two significant injuries. There was McLean, and the most significant, Matt Polster. What injuries does he really have to hang his head on? We had a full season, basically, of Bastian Schweinsteiger. We got a full season, except for maybe 3 or 4, maybe about 5-6 games from Dax McCarty. We got a full season out of Nikolic, except maybe 2 games. We got a full season out of Kapelhoff, except for 2 or 3 games that he was suspended with a red card.
Well, Lucho, MDL, Georgie.
Paunovic had these horses in his stable all season long, and he wasn't able to make it work last season or this season.
Think about this.
Paunovic is not the man for the job.
Think about this. Collier was starting. He wasn't a starter by the end of the year. Ellis was getting a lot of playing time. He's not on the team anymore. Chani was a starter at the beginning of the year. He's not getting any playing.
And Nelson
time.
brought those
Lillard
players
was
in.
a starter,
and
of the
then
year,
Pono played them.
So it's very
So
different.
is Pono part of the problem with Nelson, or do we see him as something separate? Because if I had to choose, I'd take Pono over Nelson. But all the same, when we really do the math, Pono is no better.
Yeah. It goes back to us saying we really don't know his tactics, and
we don't know his tactics.
But you mentioned Polster.
We're going on 3
it
seasons.
Sounds like I don't know if we mentioned this yet. Hopefully we haven't. But the Fire want to bring back Polster.
No,
Polster.
Might not want
who knows if Polster wants to come? He might explore.
Tenorio reported this. He said he's going to try. He's going to exhaust his European options before he even comes.
But he's one of our favorite players, and he's so big for the Fire. I mean, he's so influential what he did last year.
Imagine losing
his defensive abilities and going forward.
That's an entire back line you got to replace.
That really hurts. Let's keep moving. He also briefly mentioned about them having too many injuries and rehab injuries. Brandon Vincent unexpectedly retired.
So you need a whole back line. And Christian Dean also retired. 2 guys under 25. But basically, Christian Dean maybe was a miss of a draft pick, maybe was a bit of a bust.
Well, they got him for cheap.
He was actually a number 3 draft pick back in the same year, maybe in the same year as Brandon or the year before.
Wow.
But basically, he was a bust. Brandon Vincent basically was not a bust, but
Brandon.
I wonder if his love of soccer was kind of sucked out of him by having to play center back.
We really shouldn't comment. That's not fair.
It's really not.
But Nelson did. Someone did ask him about it, and it sounded like he got offended about it. About asking, well, you have some mid-20-year-olds retiring, and he kind of seemed offended by it.
It is odd, though. I mean,
it is odd. I mean, think about it.
And they didn't go down to USL. They just said,
Brandon
we're done.
Vincent's dream to play soccer. This is what he's been working.
Well, that's
for.
what you think his dream is.
You think, but
I mean, obviously he made it to the MLS, so it has to be part of his dream.
Pono also. So moving on here, Pono.
Maybe he can fall back in his acting career, kicking and screaming.
Pani lobbied for stability. Saying that, match results in the table doesn't really matter, but even though they really do. But he was saying the Fire needs stability, and all the best clubs have stable GMs and stable managers, and they're not hiring and not a lot of volatility. But again, results do matter, and the regression from last year is a big deal.
And stability is definitely worth its weight in some areas, but also sometimes change is very necessary, especially when you are a garbage fire, a dumpster fire, and you need to throw dirt on that dumpster fire or get a new dumpster.
It goes back to his dual role. I mean, it goes back to, he said he's going to be better next year. He wants to hire some more executives to help him. He mentioned how he's unprepared for the draft, and absolutely.
But then he wastes all that draft capital in a draft that he knows nothing about.
It's hard to,
and then depends on those very same guys, which he knows nothing about, to get Pono through the season?
James, it's hard to have 2 hats. I mean, think about it right now.
And we said that
he has 2 jobs, and he's admitted faults. And, maybe he's a better president than he is a GM because, it's just the results.
That's a great question. Is Nelson a better president than a GM? When we explored this question in our first video that got
there's other GMs around the league that are kind of GMs and presidents, right? Like Garpax. I think Theo Epstein.
That's NBA.
But I'm saying
and Garpax is 2 people.
Gar and Pax. I know Theo Epstein is
right, but he doesn't separate his duties.
But he's got 2 hats.
Yeah, right.
So there's 2 people.
So there's people that spread the duties. But
Kenny and Rickon.
My biggest issue, though, is that we were talking about this. Is Nelson a better president than a GM? And we were thinking, yes. But then we're like, but is he? Because he failed to recognize that his GM was trash and was not doing his job. He failed to recognize that his GM was not doing his job. And he did not fire that guy and get a new guy into the job to get it done. That is a bad president. So he's a bad president, too.
The regression is again second last in attendance isn't good. So
they've been bad in attendance for years.
They mentioned that they wanted to go back to Chicago, and
when they were talking about their training facility.
We'll see what the training facilities are a draw for fans or players.
But
going to Chicago is a draw.
They're not going to go.
I think it was more lip service to Bridgeview because there's probably some contract things there. I wonder. Mm-hmm. So it just makes sense to be in Chicago. That's where all the teams are. There's a lot of players. I mean, a population there. It could be convenient taking public transportation. So I mean,
it's going to be the majority of people are in Chicago.
It makes sense to go back, but at the same time, maybe they just have to kind of toss some breadcrumbs out there to Bridgeview and.
To make it seem legal.
Who knows? But who knows what they're going to do? Someone mentioned
before they jettison
the Ricketts, sniffing around a USL team, the Camden Yard, not Camden Yards.
Well, that's going to happen.
What's it called? The Steel Yards, whatever it's called. That development mentioned that, and so no doubt the Fire are going to have some competition.
Some river complex.
So they're going to have some competition, and Nelson's going to have to step up. So they got a jersey sponsor apparently coming in.
No, they don't have one. They said they're still talking with people. They didn't have it locked up. They didn't have the deal.
Toyota Park's being renamed.
We just found out, by the way, via Reddit, not via a world-class organization who could have sent out an email informing us, but via Reddit, that they have ended the Fire's relationship with Ticketmaster. And so if you're trying to get tickets or season tickets or any tickets for Fire stuff, you don't go through Ticketmaster anymore. They didn't send us an email. I found that out through Reddit, which I think is a little odd.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not good news. Maybe that's why.
I mean, it's not that it's not good news. It's
deliver.
fine, moving on and going to a new source, especially if they got SeatGeek coming in. So maybe they want to go into SeatGeek.
Oh, maybe it's
but
SeatGeek.
It would have been nice to find out from them instead of like from Reddit, which just seems like I'm like, what? This backwards.
Well, James,
what is this? This is so amateur.
It is backwards. And the weird thing is, Nelson did mention some progress, and it was really interesting what he said. He said, yeah, the roster's better, but then he walked it back by saying he likes the core, but he needs to invest in the spine. And then he said the mindset's better of the club. What? That's just some jargon that's like, what? He deflected again the results being at the bottom of the table. So there really was no progress. And maybe there's some progress in scouting. He said they hired some more people or may hire some more people. And there was a question on that, too, about how their facilities are lower, their scouting is lower. And so that's definitely a place that the Fire have to upgrade.
Tenorio grilled him on this question, and he basically just it was a terrible BS answer is what Nelson Rodriguez gave, because I can detect BS. And what he said was, we're looking into bringing in more positions for scouting. Why wasn't it already done? Yeah. Second of all, we're looking into talking with Bridgeview about maybe adding some upgrades to this place while also looking at other places. Well, that tells me already that they've got too many things going on there. They should only have one dedicated site. You only need one dedicated site. You already had this debacle happen with the Heineken 44 pitch, and they're going to go at route again. But so they're like, oh, and the other thing, we're going to talk with Bridgeview. We've already talked with Bridgeview that we're going to bring in a couple of extra cones for that pitch outside.
It's a good point that you bring up. I mean, if they were going to do something in Bridgeview, you would think that they would do it now.
And they would have already announced
They would have already done it.
They would have been making these moves, especially in this dead PR of a year that this has been.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of coverage. I mean, Mansueto, he came in halfway through the year. Maybe next year he'll have a bigger presence. I mean, we need to see more out of him. And he has 49% of the club. And, being a new owner, I mean, he's got to realize that there needs some change.
And maybe this year has put pressure on Hauptmann to sell from Don Garber, because Don Garber's like, that's totally unacceptable. That happened under your watch, Hauptmann.
Yeah.
Sell to this guy who's actually going to care and give a damn about Chicago soccer and might actually build the Mecca of the Midwest in Chicago and get Chicago young youth players interested and into these professional facilities and inspire greater soccer players and inspire other soccer players onto greatness, which otherwise is not going to happen with this current regime and with this current ownership.
He mentioned how their academy still don't have all the best local academy eligible-esque players. I mean, there's other academies in the area. Soccer's, I think FC United have one. Don't quote me on that. But there's a couple out there, and we don't have all the best players.
And they said, now we want to do that. But why didn't you want to do this 10, 20 years ago when the academy was invented?
And you think it would be pretty easy to separate yourself.
Or to continue it.
It would be easy to separate yourself with just some bomb facilities, some awesome facilities. I mean, that's
because you're the Chicago Fire, what other organizations? The Chicago Magic, the Eclipse. What are some other? The Kickers, the Soccers. What other team in Illinois could compete with the money behind the corporate Chicago Fire?
Offer you an opportunity to play pro
and see pros play.
Yes,
and inspire you on to greatness. Only Chicago Fire, but yet they refuse to even offer that or even think to offer that, because that's not even an option with them. That's spending already too much money.
I thought it
needs to be a grass facility too.
They touted some a good team going to Poland and going undefeated, and that's awesome. But then I thought this was kind of weird. They were like, some teams asked for their numbers and we didn't give it to them. And I thought that was weird. I mean, I guess you got to keep your own scouting, your own academy kids. But I feel like that's an opportunity they squandered.
Why don't you loan these kids out?
I don't know.
Figure that out too.
I don't know. Maybe that's petty of me, but
a lot of this stuff, solidarity payments is a big issue.
Have that opportunity.
What it comes down to is probably the solidarity payments, and what we learned with that Alphonso Davies situation, I think, was solidarity payments might actually have to become a thing for U.S. to succeed. Solidarity payments meaning that the youth clubs who helped raise these young kids who turned into the Christian Pulisic's get reimbursed. Well, in Christian Pulisic's, instance, his dad basically moved him over to Germany as soon as he could because there was no American thing out here that was really good enough. I mean, there are some people that slip through. I mean, there's lots of players that have come through Fire, that Fire Academy. Brad Guzan, Brian McBride. There are players that have come from Illinois.
Lil Lila for a little bit. Who else? I mean, I think there's a couple.
There's countless. The numbers, it's so many that have come through, but they can't bring these guys back. A lot of people don't want to associate with the Fire because the Fire is just such a trash outfit right now because they've been run into the ground by the current ownership and the current executives.
Let's in what's going on with the fans.
In fact, you got players wanting to leave, like Gutman, not Gutman, but Lindley.
And then Nelson was asked a question about the fans, and let me talk about this for a second. And he mentioned this line. I'll just start with this. Rather lose some fans for life than lose the life of some fans. And I thought that's definitely a loaded statement, and it made me, raise my eyebrows.
Because it's a false equivalency. It's a fallacy. Right
what I'm trying to say is, I mean, I know you'll want to comment on this too, but like the stadium, it just was awful. Not having Sector Latino, it was just awful not having Section 8 there, and the atmosphere was so gone. Not having any fans there, and it's the second lowest attendance, and it was not nearly as fun without having those two groups there.
Even with
19,000... That's a line right there. Hold on, we just got a comment. Keep talking, James.
Even with 19,000 people in the building...
I see this. I don't know how to...
I don't know. I would miss it, though. Even with 19,000 people in the building on that last day of the season to go see Wayne Rooney, that was quiet. It was like a USL match. It was like we were watching golf.
Yeah. And then Nelson said he's going to, look overseas. He's going to... look at domestic players here, but those are, more expensive because there's not only so many of them. This kind of raised my eyebrow. He's going to look at USL, PDL, and draft. So, I know I'm sure there's some gems there, but, I don't want to be relying on, USL and PDL and draft players again. I want us to get some good players.
Got to be brave and bold.
Then someone asked,
what? Got to be brave and bold. Whatever that means.
Yeah, what does that mean? It's just some jargon. But someone asked him about if he's going to look for, Hispanic players or American-based players, and he used that line where he's going to, just bring in the best of talent available. So you got to bring someone in, dude. I mean, 0 for 4. That's. It
wasn't going to be.
But opportunities you missed out on.
Okay, let's analyze that statement because that is a loaded statement. He's like, I'm going to bring in 4. He says there, I'm going to bring in 4 guys. But really, if you do the numbers, he brings in a $17 million guy. Those other 3 people can't come. Yeah. They don't have the funds for that. They don't have the money for that. So he is a liar or a charlatan or a fraud right there. Something's going on. Yeah. And furthermore, further evidence he's a liar, a charlatan, and a fraud comes in his own words, where he says, if ever comes the day where he feels that he's incapable of doing his job to the best of his ability, because by the way, he has 2 jobs, GM and president, he'll step away, right? He said that. He said, if it ever comes to that day where I don't feel like I can do my jobs to the best of my ability, well, that day came this season, the day you got handed those 2 jobs. And then you ineffectively did not fire yourself from being GM. It should have happened.
Yeah. Well, look what he has to do. I mean, now, like you said, he has to build a spine.
But he said he'll leave. I can't believe that because the evidence is right here that he should be leaving or at least do something to change and relieve himself of GM duties.
He's got to build a spine.
You want to save some space?
He's got to repair the relationship with fans. The fan groups and getting people to fans. He's got to repair the image. It's got to
jack up prices. Don't let Sector Latino back in. That's their 2 motives right now.
Come on, let me talk about it real quick. It's got to be hard to. He's got a lot on his plate. That's all I'm trying to say. He's got a lot on his plate, and my biggest gripe is just, I just want to see some good football out there, and that's what I hope he does this offseason. I mean, it's nice to hear that he's bringing in, talking about these 4 guys, but it's better to have them here. When the season starts, he needs them here before the season starts. I mean, what if you brought Raheem? What if you brought Katai? What if you brought
Wayne Rooney in midseason?
And they had him in the beginning of the year. Well, so he needs to prioritize getting the roster set in preseason. Overpay if he has to because it's worth it. It's worth it to go over your evaluations if you have your roster here in the preseason.
Well, you said it. You said it. He had 2 plates. Well, guess what? He wasn't handed those plates. He asked for them. He said, I have 1 plate. I could use another. That's how greedy this guy is. He needs to go. He is so above and beyond what he's capable of doing that he can't do anything. He needs to go. But we're stuck with him.
We'll see. But that's all I have. Anything for you, James? I think we should end it here.
I want to go back to this Pano versus Schweini thing. I don't think they could exist together because Pano is redundant if Schweinsteiger is here. If Schweinsteiger is saying, I don't trust you to deploy any of your tactics, then I'm going to go play center back. What's the point of Pano even being here?
Okay, it's definitely not a good look having,
your best player.
Boston Schweinsteiger. It's not like he's defying him. It's
what
more
happens
like
on your team when your best player doesn't like the coach or is
it's not good.
What does it do to the rest of the team?
I don't let that happen.
What does it do to the rest of the team? What if the rest of the team lets that happen? Because that player is not only the best player, he's the foosball got.
Here's the thing,
he's the captain.
That might be what's happening, and you're right. Maybe if they brought in a Patrick Vieira types, someone with that big of a name.
What happened when you didn't get along with your college coach?
I always did.
The first one?
No, I always did.
Okay.
I always did. That's why I was the captain. I see here.
but that was with a new coach because the old coach was horrible.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. Anyways, let's end it here. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see. He's got a lot to do, and I'm gonna be optimistic just because I'm a Fire fan, and we'll see if Nelson's back and Pano's back.
They are back.
And there's only 8 guys apparently on roster for next year.
How many more of them are going to retire before next week?
Transferred as well and traded, but we'll see. We're going to have a whole new.
I'm not ready to hang this up. Is Nikolic going to be coming back? I don't know. Do we want Schweinsteiger back? What for? What does he do? He plays a slow center back or a slower center mid, and unless you're going to put him in a Pirlo type position,
you haven't optimized him yet.
Exactly. Pano is not the coach to optimize him. That's my point. If you're going to bring back Basti, you got to get rid of Pano because you got to bring in a coach that can actually put Basti in his place, or that Basti respects enough to go play his proper position.
Even last year, they still didn't have that amazing of a roster. The core was there, but they made the playoffs, but they got bounced. They weren't that amazing of a team. I'm telling you, if Nelson somehow can construct a good 10 players around him, really good 10 players around him, that will help Basti out so much. I know that sounds obvious, but imagine that's the goal. I mean, having Basti and surrounded with 10 guys that can play soccer, can play football with him, be on the tactical level and skill level as him, I mean, you would see some really good things out there because he is such a smart player. He does communicate. He is a leader out there. And just leading by example. I mean, that guy is one of the hardest working guys out there. He really is. So, but
beyond Georgie, I really don't know who on this team is going to be here next year. Beyond Georgie, because I don't know if Nico's going to be back. I don't know if Basti's going to be back.
Mo Adams
could be traded. Nico could be traded.
Lillard will probably be back.
Didn't even see the time this year. What's the point if he probably wants to get traded too? He wants a coach who actually believes in him. First of all, Pano is the worst at defense because he had Campbell sitting on his roster all year and didn't play that guy at all. How many games of the season does that guy go and show that he can do it? It just doesn't get trust.
He's not a left back.
He depends on a retiring left back to play center back for him.
Yeah.
We didn't know at the time that he was playing.
I'm down to end it here. But you guys, thanks for watching. Yeah, it's nice to be back.
I will say
we'll have some more content.
The roster at the end of the season, I'm not ready to end it. The roster at the end of the season, if you started the season with that could have done something. That we talked about in the last video, the one that got deleted.
But okay,
there's so much that we talked about that got deleted. This is what you got to realize. You got to remember.
James, I'm ready.
Okay, fine.
We're ending it.
Whatever. All right, boys and girls, toss us a like if you enjoyed the conversation. Yes. Add comments below. What did you guys think of the press conference? Any questions that you guys got? What did you think of the press conference? What do you predict for next year? Are some of these people going to be traded? Is Basti returning? Should Basti return?
Matt Polster?
Hopefully Matt Polster returns, but it doesn't sound like it. Tenori already said he's out the door, so that's the entire whole back line that we got to find.
There's got to be a lot of improvement. Are
we going to be depending on the draft again, like he was saying? Are we going to try to find some USL gems that anybody know in any?
Cincinnati coming in the league next year, right?
Any expiry players that potentially could be coming on a free?
Bryce Harper.
Is Zlatan in play? Could we bring Zlatan here? Because I think he would fit better with Pano's tactics because Pano likes to cross.
Zlatan, so.
What we know about Pano's tactics is he likes to cross in from his outside backs. That's all I know about Pano's tactics. That's the only thing. And who do you need? Zlatan definitely helps.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Or Kamara.
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right, boys and girls. We'll see you guys later.
How do you end this thing?
I don't know. We'll see. All right.
Yeah.
All right, bye, guys.